Welcome back to A Closer Look with Joan Thomas, part of the growing 360news.com pubcast series. Following a spectacular premiere that warmly connected with viewers across the community, Joan returns with another thoughtful conversation featuring one of Thomaston's most respected and recognizable voices, Reverend Dr. Gilstrap. Please welcome Joan Thomas.
Hello everyone, I'm Joan Thomas. Welcome back to another episode of A Closer Look. Today I'm talking with Reverend Dr. Gilstrap, pastor of First Presbyterian Church here in Thomaston, but today we're approaching our conversation from a slightly different angle. In addition to his ministry, Dr. Gilstrap also serves as Vice President of the Thomaston Upson Arts Council, better known as TUAC, and he has become a familiar and beloved presence in our community's artistic life through theater, music, and performing arts. Today we'll be talking about the role the arts play in a community and why they matter, and how creativity and faith often intersect in meaningful ways. Thank you for talking to me today.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Well, let's get right into it. What first drew you to both ministry and the arts, and how have both of those callings shaped each other in your life?
I was raised in a religious family that was also an artistic family. My mother was a piano teacher. Tried to teach me piano, but your mother should never be your piano teacher. You should always have somebody else. But one of the things they did was take me to the Greenville Little Theater. I was born and raised in Greenville, South Carolina, which is the home and still is the home of the Greenville Little Theater, community theater. And during the summer, they would have summer theater camp, just like TUAC does. And one year is probably about 1966, 1967, 68, somewhere thereabouts, late 60s, early 70s. The theater was putting on Once Upon a Clothesline, which was an old children's play written, I believe, in the late 40s, early 50s. And my mother took me down there and got me signed up. And so all that summer, I would go 3 or 4 times a week to Once Upon a Clothesline, where I would learn basic, theater techniques and singing and dancing, a little bit of dancing. Didn't have many lines, but I got bitten by the bug then. I explored theater.
Did she sign you up, or did you sign yourself up? Was that
something? She
something?
signed me up. I didn't know what was going on there. But I enjoyed it. It brought me together. It got me out of the house. It got me involved in something fun, but it was also creative, with other people. It brought a bunch of other people together, all ages, all backgrounds, and gave them a common goal to shoot for, to produce something beautiful, to produce something fun, to produce something for somebody else, to bring joy and happiness into the community.
So when you finished your production, did you feel like really proud of yourself?
Absolutely.
And like,
I
wow.
was part of that. And the church was the same way. My mother's family, that was their family church. My great aunt was the nursery teacher, and my grandmother was the kindergarten teacher. And right early on, they discovered that I could sing, and so I was in the children's choir, and then I was in the youth choir, and then I was in the grown-up choir. So there again, I had a reason to go to church beyond just sitting and participating. We had Bible study, we had worship, of course, but I was a part of the choir. I was behind the scenes. We had to get together for rehearsal. And we were together in that group, and we were all together producing something beautiful.
Yeah, to me, there's no other better feeling than that, than producing something beautiful. You have described music and theater as stress busters. You told me that a couple months ago or a little longer, and you said it was a healthy outlet. How have the arts, especially currently TUAC, helped you personally, if they have, through difficult or demanding seasons?
It's given me an outlet It sounds like a flippant answer, but it's not really. It gives me an outlet to go, a place to go where I'm not in charge. where I'm not responsible for the administrative details and the financial details and the personnel details. I'm one of the group. I've been included. It's a place where people can go and be included in a controlled environment, because there's a director, there's a script, there's props, there's stage directions. But we're all together experiencing this after hours. Nobody else is there, and we have a goal in mind to produce this play, to sing this song, to offer this artistic expression to an audience, to the community.
Well, I certainly can identify with that. I know exactly what you mean. There is something to say about when you're not in charge.
Yes.
So I can identify with that. Is there a connection between storytelling in theater and storytelling in faith?
I believe there is. I believe there is. Theater, religion, it brings order to our chaotic and depressing world sometimes, in a way that sitting down trying to explain something doesn't.
Right.
All of our lives involve stories. Okay, so when, for instance, when people would go up to Jesus and ask him, tell us about God, Jesus did not say, well, God is a spirit, infinite, eternal, and unchangeable in his being, wisdom, power, holiness, justice, goodness, and truth. That's a good answer. All those words mean something. But the child on the back row who's lost in his iPod is not going to look up when he hears that. But what Jesus said is, let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a story. There was a shepherd that had 100 sheep, and they were out in the sheepfold, and the shepherd lost one. And so we've got one missing sheep, and that shepherd goes looking for that sheep, because that sheep has all of a sudden, by its very lostness, become the most important sheep to the master. And then the shepherd goes and finds the sheep, and whether the shepherd does not beat the sheep or abuse the sheep or make the sheep go off into a fold by itself and think about its actions for a week. No, the shepherd picks up the sheep and he checks the sheep out and he binds the sheep and he heals the sheep. He pours oil on the sheep, and then he picks the sheep up and he brings it back, not to the sheep in the field, which have already gone home. He brings it back to the sheepfold, saying, look what I found. Let's have a party. That's what God is like. So he tells those stories. In theater, we tell a story. In music, in choral music, we tell a story. We paint pictures with sound. And when it's done right, when we follow the director, shout out there, when we listen to the director and follow the director who is guiding us to produce this piece, this event, this emotion, this story, then it adds to creativity. It becomes an act of creativity that, when it's done right and done well, benefits the community and helps the people who are listening or watching.
Right. So let me ask you another question that goes along with that. What qualities tend to emerge when people create something together, qualities in those people when they create something together, whether it's music or theater or something else?
They get a common goal, for one thing. They're given an opportunity to participate in something larger than themselves. And they can see that other people have come together to sing, to craft, to act. Even the behind the stage people, behind sound and lights and so forth. All these different elements come together. Each one of them involves people. Even a one-person play with a monologue from start to finish involves technical people, costuming people, producing people, and yes, even administrative and financial people. All of them come together for this goal, and it brings us together and has us all pointing in the same direction.
So it kind of gets us out of ourselves.
Yes.
Which I think is important, which makes me think of what I was going to ask you. You know, many people today are exhausted by division and negativity. I don't have to tell you where it is because you already know. We see it everywhere we go. We hear it everywhere. How can music, worship, and the arts help restore a sense of hope? I think they do, but I'd love to know your answer.
It helps us change the story. We're surrounded by so much negativity. A lot of it contrived and deliberate.
Yes.
Because we're all wanting people, look at me, look at me, look at me. Vote for me. Pay me. Give me your money, give me your time, give me your support. When you're in the arts, when it's done, which I think is possible when it's done well, it distracts us, not from ourselves, but into ourselves. It gives us something to concentrate on that was not there before. And so we can gather together and, okay, we're agreeing to get together and do something positive. We're agreeing to get together and use our skills and our gifts and our talents, not for negativity, not for bias, not for tearing down, but for building up and creating something that wasn't there before. You know, the play's not there until we have an audience and we present it.
How important is the leadership in that, you know, like directors everywhere? I mean, they're all different, I think, but how important is that to you?
The director gives you, in a sense, an outside vision. Okay, the director sees the entire picture. We're down in the ballroom and we're dancing and learning the moves. Director's up on the balcony looking down and seeing the whole picture. So the director at any time can see the lighting, can hear the sound. It's important for us to follow the movements together to create a dance, to paint a picture, to offer a play or a piece of choral music. The director's the one who is guiding, tweaking, listening, responding, and bringing all the pieces together. Why? Because the director can see things that we can't from the floor.
Right.
Things that we cannot hear from the risers. The director can hear from one point. And so the director brings, I don't want to use the word control, but the director brings concentration. The director keeps the vision alive. Even during the pit of rehearsals when everything's going wrong and the lights are burned out and this person's not there, the director's there to remind us, this is what we're going for, this is what we're capable of. Let's work on this piece over here, because this piece is a part of the whole.
That's kind of like what your job is as minister, though, right?
Yeah, minister comes from administer, so.
Well, in your opinion, you know, I really have opinions myself about this, but in your opinion, what happens to a community when the arts disappear?
Another flippant answer that's not really flippant: when the arts disappear, the community disappears. You cannot have one without the other. It takes a community to produce art. And the art brings together and generates community. And by art, of course, thereby that includes everything. I'm reminded that in the liberal arts, in the liberal arts education, science is one of those liberal arts. Science, medicine is an art, it's a craft, it's a skill, it's also a science. Art is how we combine the chaos of reality into something organized, something perhaps hopefully beautiful, something perhaps communicative. It's how we communicate with each other. As any English major can tell you, you can ask them, well, why did you use that word? Of all the words that you could have used, why did you use that word? What led you to do that? even in English and writing reports, involves art. It is an art. As a novelist, a short story writer, a poet, that's art.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes somebody to read the poet, it takes somebody to read the novel, and yes, it also takes somebody who can edit, a director, to read over your shoulder, to help you in the tight spots. And that's, we're getting back to what the director does and why it's so critical, not only for the director to be good and loving and skillful, but also for the person who is producing, or the people who are producing the art, follow the director.
Right.
And if there's a disagreement, fine, we can work it out. But we do so in community. This art project, which is life, brings people together because we're already here. And we can choose to fight each other, we can choose to love each other, or we can choose to get together and produce something for other people that demonstrates beauty, that demonstrates creativity, that demonstrates whatever message that you want to try to achieve.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was thinking as you were speaking, sometimes people just don't know how that's going to affect them. Like when they're in the middle of a choir rehearsal or a concert or a production, suddenly they feel it. And whereas if you don't offer that, they won't know that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I think that means, what you were talking about, getting the bug.
Yes.
But I think the arts do that as well. And also, getting a little bit away, AI is a big thing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I like it. I mean, I think it can do a lot of good things. Of course, there's a bad side to it too. But I don't think that AI can replicate artistic things like choirs that people sing in, or productions, or you know what I mean by
Mm-hmm.
that. So what are your thoughts on that, or do you have any thoughts on that?
AI is a helpful tool which can easily be misused.
Right. And that's what I think too.
The written word is a helpful tool which can easily be misused. The dangers of AI, of generative AI, is the expression. Is that when you can use them when you're stuck and you need something to help you along with this or help them generate that. But when AI, you use it to generate an essay and turn it in as your own, I don't know what kind of plagiarism that is, but it's got to fall under something.
Well, we'll learn a little more about that later, I'm sure.
Yes, okay.
I know, but go ahead, what you were saying about the arts.
The whole point of the arts is the human touch. And yes, there is digital art, but it still takes a human being to monitor it, to create it, to turn it into something that is a human expression.
Which is exactly what I think the arts is, a human expression. So that would be a whole different topic for another day, I think. I wanted to ask you this too. Personally, that I've always admired your acting ability. Me personally, yes. I always have. Something that always bothered me in school theater and sometimes community, of course, people are just learning. But then when people would put on a production and people are just standing on the stage speaking, and they don't ever really get into that character. One of the things I've noticed about you that I love is that when you perform, you completely disappear into that character. Like when you played FDR in Annie, you were FDR. And so does that take some study for you, or do you just do that naturally?
Some of it is natural, some of it is background, some of it is genetics, but most of it is practice and direction. As an 8-year-old boy going to an Episcopal day school, showing up at the Greenville Little Theater and learning Once Upon a Clothesline, you have to start in order to go somewhere. In order to be good, you've got to give yourself permission to be bad. The way you learn how to write is by writing. The way you learn to play the piano is by playing the same thing over and over and over again. The way you learn how to sing, how to act, is finding a good director, a good coach, someone who's gone down that road before to guide you along the path. But that also involves a lot of work, which is why it's a discipline. Practice is a discipline.
Very good point. You're so right.
Anybody can do it. You may not have the body to do X, Y, Z. You may not have the genetics to do X, Y, Z, but you can get better at whatever you choose if you're willing to put in the hard work and the boredom of practice. It gets back to you've got to be bad before you can be good.
That's very true.
And you've got to give yourself permission to work through, and patience to work through the rehearsals and the mistakes and the forgetting. And as you go along, it gets better and gets better and it gets better. And the director, hopefully, is the one who points out, you're doing it, let's try it this way. You're keeping doing it, that's good. You made it good that time, let's do that again. And by that, all of that, you're creating the story.
Don't you think there's a fine line there between encouragement and just anything goes?
Yes.
And refining.
And that's the knowledge and skill of the director.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
Sometimes you want to turn them loose. If for no other reason for them, let them push their own boundaries and see what they're capable of. Sometimes you need to rein them in.
Right.
You've gotten off the track, let's pull it back this way. It's all about the act of creativity, the story you're trying to tell. Every time you tell a story is different. That was true in the Bible.
Oh, yes.
That was true in the Bible. If you go look in the Acts and you read where Paul describes his conversion experience, he does it twice and he does it different each time. And then the actual description of the conversion experience is a third story. 3 different stories. Every time you tell a story is different because your audience is different. Or you're in a different place in your life right then. And the story that you're creating is the story that you present that night, is the story that you present at that concert. You can tell the same story in another city to a different audience, and it will be a different story. So there's always room for improvement. And at one point, improvement becomes, let's try something different and see how that goes. I'm in a different place right now. I feel this way. And the performance becomes different. It's just as beautiful. It's just as meaningful. But it may have a slightly different meaning. But you've got to go through all the practice. You've got to follow the director. In other words, you've got to come together with all these different people and all their different personality quirks and all their different skills and all of their different passions, which hopefully the director can point in the right direction to tell this story at this time to this audience or to this congregation.
That's a great point about St. Paul. I never really thought about that before, but that's absolutely correct. What do you hope your legacy will be, not only as a pastor, but as someone who encourages people through music, theater, and kindness? And I know you do that because I see it.
I think you just answered the question, but if you want my answer, I would say that is a great question.
I do want your answer.
I would say legacy. He brought us together. He brought us together and we created something beautiful together. All for the glory of God, but for our benefit as well. He brought us together, and together we created something beautiful.
What was that you told me not long ago about the verse in Jeremiah, that we're both creations Do you remember
Jeremiah
what you said?
chapter 31, verse 3, I believe. We'll have to look that up. But it, paraphrased, is God speaking to his children, saying, out of my loving kindness I have drawn you. Implication being we are an artistic expression of God. Since we are created in the image of God, that means we are capable of artistic expression ourselves. Indeed, God created us to be fellow artists. Sin gets in the way of that, but that also gives us a lot of material to work with.
Beautiful. Is there anything else you would like to relate to the community as we speak? Not really last words, but
Everybody's got a story of their own, which means everybody is an artist. We can help you find your inner artist and express it. And we do that by getting you together with others and reminding you of your own story. Because since you have been created by God and put here in this time, in this place, God's got some story to tell through you. We'll help you find that. And we'll help you express it.
wonderful. Well, Dr. Gilstrap, or affectionately to me, Glenn, thank you so
Yes,
much
Joan.
for spending time with us today and for sharing your heart for ministry and the arts. And I want to thank everyone else for joining us for a closer look. We hope today's conversation reminds you that the arts are not just entertainment, but they help tell the story of who we are as a community. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It's my privilege.